Hi.
Hello, Ernie.
Hi. Hey, hey.
How are you? How are you doing?
We said if you shechted an animal at night and you offered it outside the azor, you'd be chayiv. Because lo tehei b'chusa mishoichet b'chutz umala b'chutz. It's not going to be any worse than if you slaughtered the animal outside and offered it outside. There you'd be chayiv both for shchita and for offering it. So here shechting it inside is not a problem, but offering it outside is a problem. It's not any worse. Mazur Rav Chia Barabin. Hashoichet oif bifnim umala b'chutz. If you shechted a bird inside the azara and then offered it up on a mizbech outside, potter. See, there is no bird korban that you kill through shchita. You always kill it through malika. So if you kill it through shchita, it's not roy to be put on a mizbech. So if you put it on a mizbech even outside the azara, you wouldn't be chayiv. Shochat b'chutz umala b'chutz. If you shechted the birds outside the azor and then was makriv outside, chayiv. The shechita outside works for birds. Why don't we say over there, name alote pchusa mishoichadum ala b'chutz? It shouldn't be less than if you perform shechita, meaning according to Rav Yochanan, you should be chayv also for the first case. Ashoichet oif b'fnim ala b'chutz. We should say the svar like we said before, lote pchusa mishoichadum ala b'chutz. So tiyufta. So the Gemara says, yes, it's a kasha Rav Yochanan. Iboy sema, shechita sa'oif b'fnim migdal kotle. You just killed it. It's not a shita. Therefore, you can't be chayiv for offering it on a mizbech outside. Now, shchita at night is an act of shchita. It's just puzzle. So it's an act of shchita. If you offer it outside, you're also going to be chayiv for shchita's chutz. Omer Ula. Emurim kotche kolim. You have the chaylev or the intestines of shlamim or a b'chor or a meiser. Normally, you're not supposed to put them on the mizbech until after zrika. But if you put it up there before zrika, lo yerdu. You don't have to bring them down. Because nasu lach moshel mizbech. They become sort of the bread of the mizbech. Amrav zera. Afanana mitanina. Other examples of korbanos that lo yerdu is shenishpach dama. The blood was spilled. Or yatsa dama chutz lekloim. Or the dam was taken out of the zara. And l'chora, it's both by koche kochim, koche kalim. If the coin wants to do zrika, he can't do it. It was all spilled. Amrit yet imol lo yardu. We say if other of its limbs had gone up on the mizbeach, l'chatchila they shouldn't have been put there. But if they've been put there now, you don't take them down. Hachadim bal izrak zoyrek. If you have dam, in the case of ula, because it's a murim that have been placed before zrika sadam, but you have the dam. So you could always do the zrika. So lokol shekain, it certainly be a kavachoymer that if the various limbs went up, you wouldn't take them down. So there's no raya because tirgama koche koche. Perhaps the barais is only dealing with like an ola or an asham or a shlomim. There, the various parts of the korban are already hukdash even before zrika sadam. Maybe that's why you keep them on the mizbeach and you don't take them down. But kochim kalim, The parts don't become hukdash until you do zrika. So maybe if you had put them up on the mizrach before zrika, you bring them down. For Timor Pesach, the kochim kalim, who bought a Pesach, which is an example of kochim kalim, is an example we said in our Mishnah of something that if you had put it up on the mizbech and there was some in psul, you'd leave it there. Tirgum b'shalol lishma. We're talking about a korban Pesach that was shechted shalol lishma. The emurim, but we don't have really a proof regarding what Ula says. Tanat, v'kulan shaloch chayin l'gabi mizbech yerdu. If you put a live animal on top of the mizbech, you'd have to take it down. Hashchutit lo yardu. But if you shechted it, and even prior to Zrika Saddam, you could bring him down. You don't bring him down. My love, lo yishna kosher kol stream, lo yishna kosher kalim. Makes no types of hegdish, makes no difference. More says lo. The difference between a live animal and a non-animal, hashchutin. For example, if you had shechted the animal and brought him up to the mizbech, mehen yerdu, mehen lo yerdu. There are some of them that would be brought down, some that would not. And maybe the kochim are the ones that stay up and the kochim kalim come down. Kashanula. Vaha kulan ktani. But the Brisa says, or the Mishnah says kulan, which implies both kochim and kochim kalim. No, it's kulam achayim. It applies to any live korban that goes up. More says pshita. You'll always have to bring it down and shecht it. Shouldn't be no chiddush that you take it down. So the Gemara says, no, lo l'machayim. We could be talking about live animals, but it's got a mum, bedukin sheba'ayin. It's got a cataract. Alib Rekiva to Omar Imol lo yordu. Rekiva was the Das Yochid who said that such a mum could be left on the mizbech. But a live animal, before the shechita, has to be taken down. Now, we explained that the Mishnah is talking about psulin. They're not roy lemizbech. Aim is seifa. Said in Ola, alive, which walked up on the mizbech, you have to take it down. But let's say you shechted it there. You cut it up into pieces and skin it in the place and burn it. Now, if it's puzzle, you would not skin it or cut it up. It says so seifa asan l'kshera. Later on in the Mishnah, we go back to kshela, where we talk about the live animal that goes up there. But maybe earlier in the Mishnah, we're dealing with psulim. So then, why kamashmalon? This last part of the Mishnah, what is that teaching us? The yesheshet v'nituch b'shem mizbech. That if you shech the animal on top of the mizbech, you skin it and cut it up into pieces there as well. However, according to Mandomer that says you can't do those actions at the top of the mizbech, Michael Meimar. The korban was okay, even until Zrika Saddam, and then maybe it became Tomei. V'relezer Reb Shimon Huda Omar, Kivan Shenizra Kadam, once there's Zrika Saddam v'hurtza basar shalachas, and the meat can be eaten or can be placed on the mizbech in 1 second. If shitana v'orla kohanim, so you could skin it and burn it and give the skin, the hide, to the kohanim. So what does he do when we ask the question in the Mishnah? What do you do if an ola went up on the Mizbeach while he was alive. Besides removing the hide and cutting it into pieces, the intestines are brought down. You have to wash it. Now, if the korban was puzzled, you wouldn't be able to take the emurim down because you wouldn't be able to bring them back up. So, Haini Navi, what can we do? Nikravinu b'fartayu. You can't offer them with the excrement inside. It has to be done in a pleasing fashion. So, Anahachi Kaminin, Medicha Lamali. Why do you have to wash the intestines when you remove it? If you can't bring it back up, what's the point? Maybe that coin will know not to put it back up, but another coin will come by and it will put it back up on the Mizbeach. Are we going to set something up in halacha that the Kohanim are going to make a mistake? If you're not supposed to put the intestines back up, don't wash them. It's a bizoyon not to wash the intestines out. You have a shlamim or b'chor meiser pesach that the emurim were put up in the mizbech before you did the zrika. Yerdu or lo yerdu? Should they come off? Why don't you ask, are you chayiv me'ila once they're up on the mizbech? I'm not concerned about that. The zrika it's once you do zrika, that will say that the emurim that go up on the mizbech are chayiv me'ila. Kiki maboili yiridia. My only shaila is, those that have been falsely put up on the mizbech, can they be taken down? Upashet lo yardu. Rabbi Yochanan came out with a final psak that they are not to bring down, and ein b'hem me'ila. Rav Nachman Yitzchak Masniachi, Am Rav Chia Barava, boy Rav Yochanan, Emori Kotche Kolim Shalom Nezrika Saddam. You put up the limbs of a shlamim before Zrika Saddam. Yesh ben me'ila or lo? Is there me'ila? Amalei Rabami, v'tibalacha Yerida. Why don't you ask about, can you take him off the mizbeach? Amalei Yerida lo kumaboile. I have no shaila that you can keep him up there. To nasa lach moshel mizbeach. We already have a svar, becomes the bread of the mizbeach. Ki kumaboile me'ila. I'm only in questioning whether there's me'ila. Poshirachi. Number one, we answer according to Rav Yochanan lo yardu. You don't have to take them down. Ve'ein b'hem me'ila. So we talked about those kind of korbanos that have their psul in the kodesh. On Rav Yochanan. Lo yichshir Rabbi Akiva el b'dukin shabayim. When Rabbi Akiva in the Mishnah said, you could put a bal mum and leave it there, that's only an animal with a cataract, that kind of mum. By birds, it's not considered a mum that invalidates them. However, who should call a megdishnis mumon? You were magdishit before it got the mum. If it had the mum when you were magdishit, the hegdish would be a problem. Here you were magdishit before they got a mum. And if it got a mum before it was hooked, that's what Rabbi Akiva said, you'd have to take it down to the mizbeach. Umoid Rabbi Akiva ba'oilas nekeva. An ola is a male animal. You're not supposed to use a female. So if you designate an animal as an ola, it's like you designated a balmum. The kishakodim mum like they should done. It's like having a mum before you were magdashit. Boy Rav Yirmiyah. Yesh nirba ba'oifos or ein nirba ba'oifos. We know that an animal cannot be used as a korban if someone had relations. Does that work by a bird? Mi omer min habehem alo yitzis raviv nirba. It's only from animals. Kol echad yisra b'roveh yisra b'nirba. So if someone had relations with an animal versus the animal having relations with somebody else, if it can be roveya, it can be nirba. If it cannot be roveya, it cannot be nirba. So a bird cannot have relations with a person. So therefore, it cannot be made possible if an animal had relations with the bird. Or do we say, we don't make this comparison. We just say, since a sin was committed with it, we disqualify it. So, Amar Rabba, Torshma, Rabbi Kiva Machshir b'Bali Mumin. Rabbi Kiva said if it's a Bal Mum, you could leave it up on the Mizbech. V'yemisa. So, if you're going to tell me that a bird that someone had relations with is okay, Nachshir Nami Nirba. Let Rabbi Kiva say Nirba is also permitted. Hoyle kosher ba'oifos. Shma Mina, that it's not fit for a korban if a human being had relations with a bird. If a bird had relations with, that means somebody had relations with the bird, or muktzah, it was designated as avodah zarah, over nevad, or worshipped, or ve'estam was used for payment, for a zono, mechir, trade-in for a dog, v'tumtum, or androgynous. It has both, either we don't know what the gender is, or it has both genders. Kulan matami, these birds convey tuma b'gadim abeis abliya. If they become a nevela, shema mina, you see that the Brisa included a bird that someone had relations with. So it's clear that a bird cannot be offered as a korban in that situation. Rav Chanina's Kana Kohanim, it said in the Mishnah that his father made sure that there weren't blemished animals on the Mizbech. My Kamashma. What is this? How? This is just repeating what the Tanna Kamma said. He's actually just telling us what the practice was with the base of Mikdash. It means the father, when he said this animal's not good, he did it not directly, but in an indirect way, like with the back of his hand. He would remove them quietly. So therefore, Rav Chanina is arguing with the Tanna Kamma regarding how you remove these parts if they were blemished from the Mizbeach. The Tanna Kamma says you can do it even directly. Rav Chanina says it has to be done quietly so people don't know. We meant not directly. Then, Kashem Shimola, in these cases, if they went up, you take them down, like the Mishnah said. The fire had not consumed most of it. Just the opposite. Even if they were removed, you can put them back up. Rav Mary Masniya Reisha. Rav Mary learned this on the Reisha. But Rav Chanina Misra Masniya Seifa. That Hatzomas Vagidim Vakranai Vatalfaim, bones, tendons, horns, hoofs, Bisman Shem Chubor and Yalu. if they're still connected to the korban, to the animal, you put them up. Pair shuf, they separate lo yalu. When do we say that the din if the fire hadn't taken hold? If the fire had consumed most of it, then you could put it back up. That's the Rav Mori learning it on the Reisha. Rav Chanina learned it on the Seifa the following way. Man demasni ha-Seifa, kol sheken ha-Reisha. Certainly learns that it would work for the Reisha. But man demasni ha-Reisha, aval ha-Seifa lav ne'ak torninu. You can't, the things that are mentioned in the Seifa are not roy to be put on the fire. So you can't even make a comparison there at all. Mishnah, im alu yardu. The following you should have to take down even if they were brought up. Psar kodshe kodshim. The meat of an ola. The meat of a chatas nashlamim that the Kohanim eat. Upsar kodshe kolim, and meat of a shlamim b'chor ma'aser Pesach. Moisra oimer. Any flour remaining from the minchas oimer, which can be eaten. Shtei alechem, which is certainly eaten. V'lechem aponim, which is eaten by the outgoing mishmeres. Ushar menachos, the remaining flour of a mincha. All these cases, all these cases are meant to be eaten. And then there are things, sometimes we allow them on the mizbech, sometimes we don't. Hatzemer shebrosh ekvasim, the wool on the head of a sheep. The seir shebezakin tyoshim, the hair on the beard of a billy goat. Ve'atzomes v'agidin v'kanayim v'atlafayim, bones, tendons, horns, and hoofs. Bizman shem chuborim yalu. If all these things we mentioned are connected to the animal, you can put them up. Shene'amar v'hikti hakohen es hakol. Pirs shulo yalu. But if for some reason these items we mentioned are not part of the animal, shene'amar v'asisa osecha basar ve'adam, but not these items. Okay, stop here. Tomorrow, regular time, 7 o'clock. Very good.
Good. Thank you.
Very
Bye.
good. Are we doing Surah today?
No, postpone till tomorrow.
Till tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey. Good night.
Bye-bye.